Last summer, I was part of a group of 3 or 4 economists. We put together a slideshow and an information packet for economists that wanted to give a talk about immigration. It's part of a project to prepare talks for economists on a whole wide range of issues. One of the things I can certainly attest to is that it does take a while to put together some good slides. So this group, the National Economic Education Delegation, asked me to be part of this group looking at, the impact of immigration. So I thought I would borrow the slides, and rather than see my beautiful face again, maybe I would just use their slides for this video and the next one. So talking about undocumented workers in labor markets for a bit right now. Um, what we see is the population of the United States right now is about 330 million. And you can see about 14%, about 45.6 million are people from other countries. Now, about 3/4 of the immigrants, 3/4 of the 45 million, in fact, more than 3/4, are here lawfully. But what we sometimes refer to as unauthorized or undocumented immigrants, that's probably almost a quarter of all immigrants. It's about 10.5 million people. I prefer to use the term unauthorized. I don't like the idea of calling people illegal, so I prefer unauthorized. And these are based on a survey done by the Pew Educational Trust. It's a reliable estimate, but these numbers I would not take to the bank because it's really hard to do a survey and ask people, are you here in the country without the proper papers? But this is the best guess. I don't know of anything that is a better estimate of the number of undocumented workers in the United States, or the undocumented people really. But 10.5 million out of our population of about 330 million appear to be undocumented immigrants. Now, what we see is that up until the Great Recession, the number of undocumented people in the United States increased. Since that time, we've seen two things. One, what we see is that because of the Great Recession, remember our model before where we talked about the benefits from migrating? Well, the benefits were no longer as great during the Great Recession. Fewer people came. Furthermore, in recent years, the benefits of staying have declined as we have made efforts, especially the most recent administration, the current administration, to crack down on people that are undocumented. So we've probably gone from about 12.2 million undocumented workers down to about 10.5 million today. If we look at this, what we find out is that the number of undocumented immigrants in the labor force has gone down. And still, of the 10.2 million, about 3/4 of undocumented people are working. They're in the labor force, and they make up almost 5% of the labor force. Now, something we're going to come back to in the next video, what we find out is that, if we look at people just ages 25 to 64, people that are more likely to be those that are working, what we see is that, these are the people. If they are born in the United States, we call them native born. Only about 8% lack a high school diploma, and about a third have a college degree. But if you look at lawful immigrants, a little bit more likely to have a college degree, but also much more likely to lack a high school diploma. In other words, the middle, those with a high school diploma or some college, is less to be found among lawful immigrants. But if you look at unauthorized immigrants, we find out that about 44% of them lack a high school diploma. Only 17% really have a bachelor's degree. What's the bottom line here? Well, if you come from Asia, among unauthorized immigrants, and you come to the United States, you might find yourself driving a taxi cab and not using your degree from some university back there. So, we do find that there are about 1 out of 6 unauthorized immigrants in this age group have a college degree, and 44% lack a high school diploma. If you're curious as to where unauthorized immigrants are coming from, you'll notice that the number from Mexico in 2007, this is the population, was about 7 million, and today it's about 5 million, about 2 million less. But we see more from Central America, especially from the Northern Triangle, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, and we also see more from Asia. If people find that it's hard to come back, we talked in the previous video about circulatory migration, the result is they're not going to leave because they know they're going to have difficulty coming back. So the share of people that are undocumented, that have been in the country for at least 10 years, has gone up. And the people, you might want to call them short term, less than 5 years, we don't have people 5 to 10 on this graph, that's gone down. Fewer people are coming undocumented, and those that are here tend to be staying. You can see, and this is, once again, from a research organization, here's where unauthorized or undocumented workers are. Believe me, this is just an estimate. I can guarantee in my wife's home state of North Dakota, there are undocumented workers. And, there will be some in New England as well. But anyway, where are undocumented workers? Well, we see a lot on the East Coast, Chicago, South Florida, a lot of them working in agriculture, Texas, and California. That's where a lot of people, have, in fact, wound up. Now, we can look at how people came in the country, and this is one of those facts that winds up surprising a lot of people. What you'll notice here is we can look at, in 2016, people that arrived that were unauthorized, undocumented. This is entry without inspection. In other words, people just came across the border. What you see here is that roughly 2/3 of the people that are undocumented came to the country legally, maybe as a tourist, maybe as a student, maybe as a temporary worker, and they overstayed their visa. They overstayed their permission to be here. Only about 1/3 or so entered the country illegally. So when you're talking about undocumented people, excuse me, what you see is that in general, it's people that came legally but overstayed their visa. So we're going to talk more about this in just a few minutes. We're going to look at the economic impact of all this, so stay tuned.